round comes down to three key issues: HIV, human rights violations, and violence. But let's begin with framework right a little bit at the beginning. Remember that just because the U.S. is passing a tax on U.S. companies means that it is a U.S. anti-drug policy, not a Latin American anti-drug policy. Just because they have to raise prices for these Latin American companies does not make it a Latin American policy. Don't let them get that link or this 1 million or 500,000 lives impact. But with that in mind, let's begin with the first key issue, which is HIV/AIDS, and a broader scheme of health. Remember that our policy of prohibition prevents needle exchange programs from being federally funded. And this is bad because if these programs were federally funded, we would see 1/3 a decrease in the amount of HIV. And this leads to about 100,000 lives per year. Remember that people don't go to existing HIV clinics because of the fact that there's a stigmatization against it because of our prohibitionist policies, because people don't want to get arrested when they go to these clinics. Now, my opponents try and refute the health point with taxes, but remember that their impact does not say that it is implemented. They don't show that this is our current policy, and they have to be able to show that going forward before we can evaluate that today's round. And moreover, the treaties between countries, it also isn't a big point in today's round because insofar as it is, again, not policy against Latin America, it is U.S. policy signing with the World Health Organization, not Latin American policy. But next, the second key issue is human rights violations. Remember that more conviction rates just makes more human rights abuses in prisons. We see more overcrowding and more of these awful effects such as malnutrition. And we see more people going into prison for small-time crimes and coming out experienced members of cartels. And that's why we see these violence stats increase. That's why we see these 11,500 deaths. And that's why we see that when a 92% increase in aid goes to a country, we see a 138% increase in the amount of violence. Remember that we're the only team that gives a quantifiable impact to the number of lives specifically due to United States policy. And that's what we give with this 11,500 evidence. But moreover, you should also prefer our HIV/AIDS and our deaths in Mexico over everything in the round because it's the easiest link to United States policy in Latin America. And for these reasons, we encourage you from